Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to start with a new topic, that is disk scheduling algorithm. This is an introductory portion of disk scheduling algorithm. In the last video, I've completed with the disk architecture, that is the internal structure of a hard disk that I have talked about. And the previous session, we have discussed the various file allocation schemes in file management. This scheduling algorithm is a part of Lucknow University's Unit 4 syllabus that talks about file management and device management. That is basically, we term it as input-output management functions of an operating system. This scheduling algorithm is basically aiming towards the various methods that we can apply in the accessing of files which are stored on my hard disk at the time of input output. That is, when I'm reading from the file, that is, I'm taking an input, or when I am writing into a file, that is, I am giving an output. Reading a file is known as input process, and writing into a file is known as an output process. Okay. Now, as we know, a process needs two types of time. That is CPU time, that is the execution time of a process. And while executing, process oftenly requires some kind of input or generates as a result of processing some kind of output. So during this input output process, this IO time is required. So broadly speaking, computers में दो तरह के time होते हैं, एक CPU time, that is the execution time of a process, and input output time, that is the time incurred at the in the process of generating an output or receiving an input for the process as an input. So for IO, that is input output, it requires the operating system to access the disk, because it is through the disk I can get an input, or it is into the disk that I can save my output. However, the operating system must be fair enough to satisfy each request, and at the same time, operating system must maintain the efficiency and the speed of process execution. So this technique that operating system uses to determine the request which is to be satisfied next is called disk scheduling. Disk scheduling is done by the operating system to schedule the IO request arriving for the disk. Disk scheduling is also known as IO scheduling. So remember this point, children, that if you get a question, disk scheduling or IO scheduling, don't get confused. They are no two different terms. They are the same term used for same process. Now, disk scheduling is important because multiple IO requests may arrive by different processes, and only one IO request can be served at a time by the disk controller. So thus IO requests need to wait in the waiting queue and need to be scheduled. Two or more requests may be far from each other, so can result in a greater disk arm movement. Hard drives are one of the slowest part of computer system and thus need to be accessed in a most efficient manner. Now, there are many disk scheduling algorithms, but before discussing them, let's have a quick look at some of the important terms. What are those terms? First is the seek time. Seek time, अगर आप लोग को C प्रोग्रामिंग याद हो या C++, उसमें seek फंक्शन होता था, seek G, seek P. या file handling in Java also involves a seek function of random access file class. Seek function या seek term is used to for like accessing of the file. कितना टाइम लगता है? Seek मतलब ढूंढना, ओके? तो आपके सिस्टम को कितना टाइम लगेगा उस फाइल के पोजीशन को लोकेट करने में? That is seek. So seek time is the time taken to locate the disk arm to a specified track where the data is to be read or written from. So the disk scheduling algorithm that gives minimum average seek time is considered to be better. CPU scheduling algorithm में, the algorithm which gives the minimum average waiting time for a process in a queue is considered to be better. यहाँ पे जिसका seek time, जिस algorithm का minimum average seek time होगा, तो that algorithm is thought to be a better algorithm when compared to others. Second term oftenly you'll come across is rotational latency. Rotational latency is the time taken by the desired sector of the disk to rotate into a position so that it can access the read-write heads. So the disk scheduling algorithm that gives minimum rotational latency is better. तो rotational latency, as we all know, disk spindle पे attached होते हैं. Okay, बहुत सारे disk एक साथ एक दूसरे पे cluster के form में होते हैं, which is known as platter. Okay, cylinder is different tracks of the different disks. When they fall together in one single position, that is known as cylinder. Okay, तो ये tracks जब rotate करते हैं in a spindle, the disk rotates. And each track is divided into sectors of 512 bytes that we have discussed in the previous sessions. तो एक सेक्टर और जो डिस्क आर्म है वो ऊपर नीचे तो मूव कर सकता है, आगे पीछे मूव कर सकता है, ट्रैक बदल सकता है, मगर सेक्टर नहीं बदलता. सेक्टर बदलने के लिए डिस्क को रोटेट होना पड़ता है. तो सपोज आई एम ऑन सेक्टर 1 एंड आई हैव टू रीड फ्रॉम सेक्टर 4. तो 1 से 4 तक जाने के लिए हमारा डिस्क आर्म नहीं जाएगा आगे. डिस्क आर्म इज फिक्स्ड इन पोजीशन. तो वो आगे पीछे हो सकता है, ट्रैक बदल सकता है. सेक्टर के लिए डिस्क को रोटेट होना पड़ेगा. तो क्या रोटेशनल लेटेंसी, तो कितना टाइम लगेगा एक डिस्क को रोटेट होकर डिजायर्ड सेक्टर को रीड राइट हेड तक लाने में, दैट इज नोन एज रोटेशनल लेटेंसी. Next is the transfer time. Transfer time is the time to transfer the data. Read write head ने जो data यहाँ से sense करके read किया, उसको CPU तक transfer करने में जितना time लगता है, that is known as transfer time. It depends on the rotating speed of the disk and number of bytes to be transferred. Disk access time. Disk access time total क्या होता है? Seek time plus rotational latency plus transfer time. ये तीनों मिला लो तो ये बन जाता है डिस्क एक्सेस टाइम. तो ये इस डायग्राम के थ्रू आई हैव शोन यू. डिस्क एक्सेस टाइम इज सीक टाइम प्लस रोटेशनल लेटेंसी प्लस ट्रांसफर टाइम. और डिस्क रिस्पांस टाइम क्या होता है? दिस डिले इनकर्ड. क्यूइंग में जब बहुत सारे रिक्वेस्ट एक साथ आ जाते हैं तो दे फॉर्म अ डिस्क क्यू. ओके, इनपुट आउटपुट क्यू बन जाती है. तो क्यूइंग का वेटिंग टाइम मिला के डिस्क एक्सेस टाइम में वो बन जाता है डिस्क का रिस्पांस टाइम. Disk response time is the average time spent by a request waiting to perform its input-output rotation. Okay, average response time is the response time of all the requests. Variance response time is measured how individual requests are serviced with respect to average response time. So the disk scheduling algorithm that gives minimum variance response time is considered to be better. So please, this is a important notice to all of you कि ये जितने terms हम लोग ने अभी discuss करे, seek time, rotational latency, transfer time, disk access time and response time, along with variance response time and average response time. Please remember these terms by heart. They are very, very oftenly asked in your theory paper as well as your interviews and your viva. Next, we are going to talk about purpose of disk scheduling. The main purpose of disk scheduling algorithm is to select a disk request from the queue of the IO request and decide the schedule when this request will be processed. ये purpose होता है disk scheduling algorithms का. And the goal is fairness, high throughput and minimum traveling head time. That is head का movement जितना कम से कम हो उतना अच्छा performance होगा, efficiency होगी, और fairness means equal opportunity to be provided to all the input-output request in the queue. So ये goal होते हैं हमारे disk scheduling algorithm के. And next, in the end, I have just given you a glimpse of the various types of disk scheduling algorithm that I'll be discussing in my live sessions with you one by one. The FCFS algorithm, that is first come first serve. STF, that is shortest seek time first. Scan algorithm and C-scan. It's very easy, children. When we'll discuss with examples, it will be more clear to you. So I'll end my session by this. That's all for today. Thank you.